Howdy everybody, I pray this video finds you blessed. So this week I have a chunk of oak, some spalted oak, because I've had it for quite some time now. It's been laying out in the yard and I'm slowly but surely trying to get all of my bulb lengths that I've cut up turned, and now that I have my coring system, I definitely look forward to doing more and more of them as I get some time. Anytime you turn spalted wood, especially really wet spalted wood, it's a good idea to wear a mask. When I first started turning, I had a lot of spalted oak that I turned, and I would go to bed at night coughing, and it's definitely not good for your lungs, and I didn't know any better. So I would just definitely make sure you're protecting your lungs in the shop, and for spalted woods, just wear a mask. This chunk of wood's been sitting in my yard for about a year or more, and it's been exposed to the weather. I didn't have it covered or put under anything up until about 3 or 4 months ago. I had put it in my woodshed and set it off to the side to, start processing these blanks. So it is still wet at this point, but not near as wet as it would be if it was first, cut down. I should have moisture metered it, but I just didn't think about it because I was gonna core it and then set it off to the side to turn it later. So when I processed this log, I didn't cut the pith out of it. I normally don't, and it's not because of any particular reason other than I just have so much to process and I don't want to make those extra cuts. I mean, it's laziness or time or whatever reason. If you cut your pith out of your blanks before you store them or what have you, you definitely have less chances of it cracking or splitting so bad. But again, I had so much to process and I just kind of wanted to get some of the mess down in my yard and kind of shuffle through what was good and what wasn't. So there's a lot of pieces that I just didn't take the pith out of before storing them. I use a tenon depending on what projects I'm doing, and particularly, especially when I'm doing roughed out bulb lengths. Tenons are easier to reshape once the bowl is dried, because when you put a tenon on it and you set it out to dry, that tenon will warp, and it's a lot easier to put a tenon on the piece once it's dried than it is to redo a mortise. And you want to make sure that that tenon is good and round for security. Now for this piece, when I remounted it, I didn't have to redo the tenon. It was very good shape. It didn't warp. The bottom of the bowl wasn't wonky as I thought it would be. There's a large crack because the pith was left in this chunk of wood when I stored it away. But there's a big, large crack, and I usually anticipate having to cut these down a lot shorter anyway because I don't remove the pith. So technically I removed the pith on the lathe versus afterwards, but you do risk obviously getting cracks that you possibly wouldn't normally have in your blank. I'm just going down until I get to a portion where the crack isn't so bad. I draw a line on the outside so I know where my pith is, and once I get this blank cut out, I can turn it down to its final size. I'm using the one-way coring system. I got the 9-inch and the 11-inch blades. This thing is awesome, especially if you're doing a lot of coring, a lot of processing bowl blanks. It just really helps take the wear and tear, one, off your gouges and off your shoulders, and and helps cut down some time. When you're roughing out bowl blanks, you just want to make sure that your thickness is even all the way from top to bottom. It will help it to dry evenly, and you'll end up with less warping or cracking when it comes time to return them. And as far as thickness, the rule of thumb is 10% of its overall size. Now, to seal the end grain so it will slowly dry instead of really quickly drying and crack and possibly fall apart on you, I used several different things. I don't buy any Anchor Seal or anything. I either use Titebond wood glue, I've used Elmer's glue, I've used pure beeswax and sealed the ends in some woods. That works pretty good. And I've also used my wax melts, air freshener things that I use in my house, and I've used those left over to seal up the end grain. I'm using a Harbor Freight moisture meter, and what I normally do is I'll take the blank or what have you that I'm working with, meter read it, and then I go over to my shop is Wood Walls, and it's kiln dried lumber, and I meter read what that is going on in the moisture in that. So it kind of gives me an idea of the difference between my blank and then something that's kiln dried, because we're typically very humid here, and this past weekend when I turned this, it was raining, so everything kind of just was bleh, even more humid than it normally is because of the rain. And that's kind of how I judge or gauge what I'm turning and how wet it is, based upon our moisture that we kind of continually have, or the weather. There's no way I can control the humidity outside, so that's how I gauge what, how wet the wood actually is. 17% might be a lot for some of you in different climates, but here, when I test my walls during the summertime, it's around 9 to 10%, and then when it's kind of on a humid day or rainy, I should say, because humid day is every day. When it's rainy, I usually get between sometimes 12 and 18%. I've meter read the walls in my shop, and it actually came to 22% at one point. So that's a lot of moisture for some of you because of where you're at. For here in Florida, we stay pretty humid. At least in my location. So that 17% is pretty darn good, and I felt confident enough that it wasn't going to warp too badly. Had some bug holes to fill, and so I decided to use the 4-minute epoxy, and Total Boat sent me this Universal Pigments kit, and these pigments are potent. I've tested them out doing some other blanks, and man, all of the colors in that kit are extremely heavily pigmented, and what I love about them is they're flat colors, so they don't have this pearly whatever to them, so you can get that nice flat color, and you can make them translucent if you wanted to by adding just a little bit, literally a dinky little bit, and I just love them because they're so heavily pigmented that you don't have to use a ton of it, and they'll last you a long time. The silver that comes in that kit is awesome to mix with any of the colors. So far I've mixed them with most of the colors in that kit, and I am pleasantly surprised, and hopefully I'll be able to do some more videos with using those pigments so y'all can see how awesome they are. I like to use these hook and loop scoring pads as often as I can to apply the abrasive paste because it's a lot easier. It works it in a lot better. I normally sand to 400 or 600 grit on these wood pieces, so that's a 400 grit a scoring pad. It's really already worn down. I just use it to apply the abrasive paste. It's a lot easier on these bigger pieces, and also it kind of alleviates some of my wrist pain that I get from pushing down so hard and trying to really work that in. And it kind of goes on a lot quicker too. Brad's Workbench's tongue wax finish is my go-to for food safe. I love how soft it feels whenever it's finished. That to me is almost everything. How soft and buttery soft it feels whenever it's done. Unfortunately, my battery died while I was turning the bottom of this off and didn't really realize it, so you didn't get to see me turn my bowl into a funnel. I wasn't planning for this. Unfortunately, it happens, and it happens to the best of us. So I decided to make this video on how to fix that, like what you can do, some options on, style opportunities on what to do to, fix if you decide to turn one of your bowls into a funnel instead. Yay, I'm part of the funnel club. Well, I have been, to be fair, part of the funnel club since probably day 2 of turning bowls. I wanted this piece to be all wood and it to be food safe, at least, for a fruit bowl or something you can put fruit in. So I decided to just get another chunk of oak. This is from the same tree, some blanks that I had sitting in my woodshed, and to make like a pedestal for the bowl so it kind of sits up. It ended up turning out a lot nicer than if it was just the bowl. So I'm not happy that it happened because I, obviously made a mistake, but I also am happy it did because it kind of made this bowl better. I'm using fast set resin to glue the bowl to the pedestal. Two reasons. One, because it's quicker for me. I could go out in the afternoon and finish this piece, and also because I had gaps. The bottom of the bowl isn't completely even, and I had really kind of no way to remount it to make that flush and flat. So I felt that the resin would help to fill in any kind of gaps and keep it even more secured to the base. But you definitely can use wood glue instead of resin. And if there are any gaps, just take some sawdust or, shavings or whatever and rub in there while the wood glue is still wet. And that will help fill any kind of gaps that you might have. It's just some ideas. I mean, there's more than one way to do these things, and especially fixes. They're more just kind of like problem solving, and you develop your problem solving techniques by having problems and using several different ways to fix it. Not every problem will require the same fix, so it's good. Exercises your skills. So I have this big old crack in the bottom, and I'm just using coffee as a filler to keep in with the color theme and try to keep everything just natural to the wood look as possible. The black matches the spalting, and the coffee is just there to help fill that crack because it was a lot larger than I thought it was, and it helps so you don't have to use so much CA glue. I ended up giving this as a gift to one of my local farms that we have here in Brooksville, Beasley's Farm. If you guys are local, you'll recognize the name. They're wonderful farm and wonderful people, and I just truly appreciate our local farmers and bringing us fresh, delicious produce. And my littles love going over there and checking out the goats and the cows and the chickens and bunny rabbits. And speaking of, they're gonna have a market, like a little market at their farm this weekend, the 20th and the 21st. So if you happen to be in the area or you're looking for something to do this weekend, there's going to be several different vendors. I'm not going to be there. I didn't really know about it until just a few days ago. So maybe in the future I might try to participate. Again, it's the hometown market at Beasley's Farm. I'll put all the information in the description below so you guys can look up the dates on when they're going to have their markets. That I know of, there's definitely going to be some fresh produce, some goat milk soap, and some other handcrafted awesome goodies, so check it out. All of you out there covered in snow right now, we are lifting you up in prayer. I pray you all have a wonderful weekend. Take care, and God bless.